Today, we're going to be covering the launch and basic use of the Isonas configuration tool. The Isonas configuration tool is used to reconfigure Isonas branded devices such as the RC03, the RC04, and the IP bridge. To launch the tool, once it is downloaded, and remember this must be on a Windows PC, you will launch the Isonas configuration tool.exe. When the tool launches, you will see that it has several sections. The top section is discovered units. This is where the access points will show up based on their MAC address once they are discovered on your network. Select all discovered units, this button down below. This will enable you to select all the access points that appear so you can send a mask configuration. The configuration settings are down here below. The first one is going to be host address, which when you're in basic settings, it will only show specify host IP or URL. Currently, the only one that should be being used is IsonasPureAccessCloud.com, as IsonasPureAccess.com and IsonasPureAccessDemo.com have been deprecated. If you click on Advanced Settings, that will show further settings within the host address settings, so you can actually change the DNS server that the devices will use to try to reach out to IsonasPureAccessCloud.com. The default is Google's backup DNS 8844. And then you can also update the port 55533. However, it's not recommended that you do update this because this will possibly break the ability to communicate with the server. You can also, new box that appears up above, you can set the connectivity mode. You can choose either client mode or server mode. In order for an access point to connect to Pure Access, it must be in client mode. Down below, you can also change the network addressing. This is a box that will show up if you have changed network addressing selected. And you can either set the access point to DHCP, which is the default, or you can push a static IP to an individual access point by putting the IP address, the subnet mask, and the gateway. And then with that access point selected above, you'll choose Configured Network. Another option that shows here is if you actually had an access point visible on screen and selected and highlighted in blue, you could click Show Reader Info, and that will show you the current configuration of that access point. Off to the right here, we have Discover Units, which is used to discover other units on the network. At this point, I will click it, and you will see my IP bridge and my RC04 appear on screen. You can also choose Configure Selected Units. So if you have check marks here and you have settings selected down below, if you were to hit Configure Selected Units, then it would send that configuration out to those devices. Connectivity test. This tests your computer's ability to get out of the network using the test parameters under host settings. And if everything goes good, you'll get passes. You can also export and print these functions, or you can also change the test parameters. If, for some odd reason, you have a computer that might be on a different subnet or VLAN within the network, you can also choose Add Device by IP, and as long as you know the IP address or IP range of the readers that you're looking for, you can put in that range, and then hit Add Device, and the Isonas configuration tool will try to look for those devices. Keep in mind that if you do have to add device by IP, chances are when you do try to reconfigure those devices, it may not work right. The Isonas configuration tool does work best with devices that are within the same subnet scheme or the same VLAN as the computer you're using. And then the last section that we'll show down here is Update Firmware. This can be used to update the firmware on any of your Isonas devices that do appear when you hit Discover Units, such as the RC04, which I'm going to select here. It'll pop up the RC04 devices, Coldfire, and then you can choose the files that you want to push. But for now, I'll close out of that. I will cover all these other sections in more detail in another video. All right, but for now, we will go ahead and close the app.